Today's morning coffee vinyl side. Paul Evans. Paul Evans sings The Fabulous Teens, 1960. On dropping the needle, my first and most immediate thought here is, what am I hearing? This Paul Evans guy, who I'm completely unfamiliar with, is, if my ear is not deceiving me, singing about 7 little girls sitting in the back seat of a car, engaging in a heavy petting session with a guy called Fred, while being driven around by an envious friend that's just aching to get one of them to join him in the front seat. Now I'm suddenly struck with outrage, not for the content, but thinking about the PMRC, the Parents Music Resource Center, and their 1980s and 1990s moral crusades against some of the best artists of my generation. Their whole shtick was that our music was aberrant from the tradition and needed to be policed to protect the children. Now, it makes me laugh to consider that a young Tipper Gore would have been 12 years old when this was released, later coming of age in her prime teen music years as the Beatles-led British invasion landed in America. Yet she seems to have felt that my generation, Gen X, was the one that needed our music policed. What happened to her in her life that turned her into such an insufferable Karen? We needed to be protected from Prince's darling Nikki's self-pleasure rituals, but Paul Evans could sing about a rolling 8-way orgy with 7 chicks, a guy named Fred, and a voyeur to her generation, and it was all good, clean fun? Most of the songs on this album are white covers of songs written by some pretty famous black rock and rollers from the 1950s, including folks like Little Richard and Fats Domino. And in the great rock and roll tradition, there are a lot of explicit and suggestive references to sex baked into them, something I always knew, but was still surprised to hear so explicitly as I spin this. And I think part of that surprise comes from the delivery. When Little Richard sings Tutti Frutti, it's fun. When Paul Evans sings Tutti Frutti, he sounds like your dirty uncle that may or may not be on the sex offender registry, trolling for jailbait at the local mall. Some of the covers work, some don't. Evans sings 60-Minute Man with all the sensuality of Dennis Hopper's character Frank from Blue Velvet. I'd say that's a fail. There's a lot to process here for me. I've yet to really get into the nuance of white recording artists covering black hits. Mostly because by the time I came of age, the cream had already risen to the top, and I only heard the OG versions. But I will explore this here at some point for sure. I didn't hate this, but I'm still trying to figure it out. Give me a little time.